What is up, my fellow Chibits? Today, I'm here to bring all of you a very early Tokyo Ghoul Re chapter review. Yes, early in the day, and it is a Friday. So as I predicted on Wednesday, most likely we might get the chapter of Tokyo Ghoul early. And here it is, early morning Friday, Tokyo Ghoul is already out, and what a glorious chapter this was. By far, I think one of the best chapters, besides, the info dump we got, with the Washoos and stuff. I just love this chapter for symbolism. Definitely a very good chapter, especially when it came to that poem at the end of the, chapter. Now, before I even get into anything, before I talk about this chapter and all that and dive into it, I don't know how long this video is going to be. It could be a relatively short video, like a quick video. It could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It could be an hour long. I have no idea, but please forgive me if I go on rambling for a bit, because there's quite a bit I do want to discuss when it comes to this chapter. And I have to say, I want to thank the translation team that translated this chapter, because there's one reason. For one, they always translate Tokyo Ghoul very early, and that makes me happy. But also, another thing is, they went the extra mile by actually clarifying what the poem was at the end of the chapter. So, I'll probably have it on the screen here. You might be able to see the pic for yourself. But the translation team actually goes along and lets us know what kind of the poem meant, these certain words that some of us might not understand. And actually, the poem was apparently called this, Song of the Old Ainu, by Kitahara Hakusho. That's what the, poem was about, or the song. And I just want to say thank you very much for the translation team, because without them, I would have had to probably spend hours upon hours of research looking up these different names, and it really makes me happy they were willing to actually just give me a little bit of a brief description on some of these things, and allows me to dive into the deeper meaning of what this chapter meant. So anyways, now that I've said that, let's begin with the first page. So the chapter overall, it's very symbolic. It's a very symbolic chapter that shows growth, change, and also kind of what the direction Tokyo Ghoul is going to change to after this, arc. And the chapter starts off with after the death of Arima, Arima's death. And it's a very sad chapter, and you can really feel the sadness throughout the entirety of this chapter, because this is like the time where you're grieving. You have to realize that the person you cared about is gone. They're dead. They're passed on, and there's nothing you can do to change that. And it's kind of like this is the funeral of Arima, like the funeral service for Arima, the final farewell. And as we know in the last chapter, Hiroko and his team and all that work kind of near Arima, they popped up, and as we all assume, either two things could happen. Hiroko might attack Kaneki, try to kill him after Arima is, dead, or since he died, or, they might try to help him. And as we know, we get to see Hiroko actually decides to help him. The entire squad decides to help Kaneki escape the prison, and it makes me very happy to see. So they're actually trying to help out Arima in the end. Their like final gift to Kaneki is helping him, assist him to get out of the prison, for he can continue his goal to finally make this world better again and break the birdcage. So I just gotta, if I had a hat on, I would tip my hat to Hiroko for being such a bro in this chapter, for actually, doing something for Arima and trying to carry on the legacy that Arima had, which is Kaneki Kin. So let's talk about this, dialogue here. So the Zero Squad arrives. Kaneki, well, right now when you're reading this chapter, you have this tension, like what's going to happen? Is he going to get attacked? Is he going to fight back? What's going to happen? So, as we know, Arima asked Kaneki to say, you killed me. You killed me. Remember, that's what Arima said. I want you to be the one to say, you killed me. And so Kaneki had to bear the weight of that and have to say he's the one that killed Arima. And he keeps his, I guess, his actual wish for Arima. He actually acknowledges what Arima wanted, and he carries it on. And he says, yes, I killed him. And so Hiroko is like, I see. First class Hiroko, if you come any closer, you also will. Kaneki's pretty much threatening, like, if you come any closer, I will do to you what I did to Arima. That's Kaneki's, like, little fake lie. He's, like, just saying, I'm going to hurt you or kill you if you continue to get any closer to me. And Hiroko interrupts and says, I'm not here to fight. You are a terrible liar. And it's so funny because people can read Kaneki like a book. And I like it how Ishida, in this part, he actually doesn't use the classic seeing if Kaneki lies or not. Because as we know, when Kaneki lies, he usually does this. He puts his hand on his chin, and we can instantly see that he's lying. But if you look in the panel when he was lying, we know Kaneki's lying. Like, us as the readers, we know we don't get to see that. We don't get to see this action. And I wonder exactly what Ishida meant by this. Is he doing it as a way to show that Kaneki might have finally went past that habit and he can just try to lie? Or maybe just Ishida did it in a way to where people can just read Kaneki like a book. He's an open book for many people. Different ways you can interpret that. But regardless, though, Hiroko knows that Kaneki is lying. He's not the one that really killed Arima. And I think Hiroko, since he worked under Arima for a long time, he knows kind of how Arima is. Or kind of briefly understands somewhat of him. As we know, majority of people don't really understand the full grasp of him, but they kind of have their own image of Arima, like, you know, he's a blank slate. They can dye him in any color. So Hiroko, he slightly understands what's going on here, especially when it comes to Kaneki, and so he says his final farewell. And what was the most shocking thing about this is when he says, you have this dialogue, it's like, Squad Leader Hiroko, may we say our goodbyes to Arima? I mean, he's like, yeah, so all, you know, Zero Squad are going to be saying their goodbyes. They're all young children and all that from the garden, as we know, the sunlit garden, which makes them similar to what Arima is. They are rapidly aging, and also it means that they will die at a very early age. They'll eventually turn into what Arima is. Like, not it's probably as strong as him and being a fucking monster, but they will die of old age at an early age, you know, rapid aging. So, all these are just saying their final farewells. They're not really showing, like, they hate Kaneki. They're not trying to attack him. There's, like, no malice when it comes to Kaneki. And you see these tears coming from them, which shows how much they really looked up to Arima as, like, I guess, an older brother, a father figure, a noble man, an idol. And as we all know, Arima was like this man that's like an idol. This guy that was a symbol of CCG, that was a monster. Even though now we know the truth behind everything, he was kind of a person that everybody looked up to as, like, the key, strongest investigator, the man that cannot be defeated, and he finally is laying down and he is dead. And so seeing these final farewells and seeing them all cry, it just goes to show you how much Arima inspired these people that were very similar to him, and how much he managed to let them continue to carry themselves throughout their life. So, all of a sudden you have it to where this was said. Children of the Garden. Kisho Arima was hope itself for them. So hope, the idol, as I just said, that's what Arima was for everybody of the garden. Hiroko, are you? I am a mere underling. So Hiroko just kind of clarifies a little bit. He's just a mere underling. And he's like, come with me. We are leaving. The Zero Squad, by order of Kisho Arima, is to assist Kin Kaneki's escape. So Arima's final order, or what we can assume the way Hiroko is interpreting it, is to assist Kaneki in escaping the prison and not to die. One or the other is going on, but regardless though, Hiroko is helping him out, and the entirety of Zero Squad and some of the children, or majority of the children of the Sunlit Garden, will be helping him out. And this facial reaction is the exact same face I had when I finished this fucking chapter. I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, yo, Hiroko and all of them are going to be helping out Kaneki and all that? Like, bro. So it's pretty badass just seeing this. So I'm glad Kaneki now has an exit plan. He's going to be getting out of there. But my main question is he going to be going out the same route as, you know, Toka and them, or is he going to be going out in a different route entirely? I'm very curious about that, but only time will tell. So, getting past that, let's get into the more, I guess, info dumping I need to talk about. More of this stuff I really need to dive into. And this is something that I was really interested in after I was kind of reading this chapter over and over. And I think majority of this chapter is going to focus on this. Or majority of this, you know, video is going to be focusing on this point. And then there's another one when it comes to the poem. So, we shift over to Matsuri, Washuu. We get to see the aftermath of whatever has happened in this room. And as we know, a special class investigator supposedly followed his master into death. That is what we found out. That is what we heard many chapters ago, but we've been speculating who died. Was it Hoji? Was it, you know, Suzuya? Was it these other characters? I mean, there's just many people on the table that could possibly be dead. And Marade was definitely one of them. And after this, you know, little brief, you know, like part of the chapter, you're instantly assuming that Marade is dead. That's what many people are probably assuming when you read this chapter. You're like, Marade is dead. He is the person that died. And after thinking about it, when I first read the chapter, I thought Marade was actually dead. I truly believe that. But then, I decided to take a, you know, a closer glance at the chapter, this page, okay, that shows 3 bodies on the ground. The body count is not right. And I discussed this on my Twitter. I showed pictures and everything. Most likely I'll have the pictures in this video as well for you can see. But in chapter 83, we found out the truth about the Washoos. We found out about, you know, Matsuri, Yoshitoki. We found out about all the Washoos, how they're connected to V. We found out about this connection. And I'm not going to get into that exactly, but when we had it to where Marude was talking, and he entered the room to confront Yoshitoki, Marude had two people behind him. He had two CCG agents behind him in their coats. If you look close, I'll probably have the picture on the screen. You can see it for yourself. You'll see two people behind Marude when he enters the room. And Marude continues to point his gun at Yoshitoki Washuu. That is what happens in those, you know, events. And as it goes on, eventually you hear a gunshot. And then you see a person, which is Matsuri, and then you see a person behind him, which is near a control panel. So, the actual position that Matsuri is in when it comes to this panel is actually like he's right next to Yoshitoki Washuu, or he could possibly be in another room. That is a possibility. But whatever the case may be, the position that Matsuri is in, it cannot be possible that he is behind Marude. It's just not possible, because if you look at the position of the computers and the control panels that is like right beside him, that is not in the same position as you see Marude in, where he's facing Yoshitoki, which the control panels are right behind him. So instantly, Matsuri's position in that chapter was not a person behind Marude. So Marude brought in two people behind him, which it totals up to three people. So three people right there to confront Yoshitoki. Now let's just assume that Matsuri was also in the exact same room as Yoshitoki. So that would put him a little bit to the right, maybe. A little bit to the right, maybe a little bit to the left. It doesn't matter. Just depending on which side he's on doesn't really matter. But he's in the room in front of Marude. Now the thing is, okay, if he's in that room, that makes a total of 6 people in that room. That means that you have Marude, his two people behind him, then you have Yoshitoki Washuu, Matsuri Washuu, and then that random dude right beside Matsuri. So that's 6 people. Already 3 people in the room, 3 people walk in the room, and the body count in the chapter is Yoshitoki Washuu dead on the ground, and then you have 2 investigators dead. One has their head decapitated, and the one has their other head kind of cleaved completely off. And so, instantly when I'm looking at this, I'm like, the body count doesn't make sense, because if we look at everything, let's just assume Matsuri was in another room too. Even if he was in another room and he arrived there, the body count still makes no fucking sense. Because look, 2 investigators are dead. Yoshitoki is dead up against the control panels, okay? That means Marude or one of the investigators are alive and walking around somewhere. That's probably what's going on. And if, Matsuri was in that room, that makes a total of 2 people that are completely missing. 2 people are missing. So what the fuck is going on there? So the main question here is the body count does not make sense at all. Either Marude is alive, one or the other, or 2 people are fucking alive, Marude and someone else. And then this raises other questions, bigger questions here. Let's look at this dialogue. So, could you explain that once more? Special Class Washuu. Operation Commander Special Class Marude followed his superior into death. So the superior would be Yoshitoki Washuu, okay? Which is Matsuri's father. And he followed his superior into death. So that means that Marude died and followed his superior into death, which is Yoshitoki. Now, we know that this means that both of them are kind of confirmed dead. But then let's continue on the dialogue. He took his leave from the world on the hills of brewery chief Washuu, who died following an attack from an unknown assailant. I will assume general command. The situation here is under control. Ure, and then he stutters a little bit, provide assistance to Special Class Hoji. And then he goes silent, completely off, and then you see him drop the gun with emphasis. He drops the gun, which I'll get into that in a moment. He drops the gun with emphasis, and he's like, Pa, and then Papa, and he's just crying, and I'll get into that too. And he starts on the floor, he's just crying his eyeballs out, and he starts screaming, Marude! Marude! I won't forgive you, I won't forgive you, and then he starts crying even more. So, let's just look at this and assume one thing. Matsuri is crying for his papa. He has a father complex, which is like, what the fuck? Like, whoa! Instant, like, I never saw that coming. I never saw that father complex coming with fucking Matsuri. So, holy shit, that characterization just, holy fuck, left field. But, Matsuri is laying up against the ground, crying, and saying, I won't forgive you, Marude. So, this can only be assumed in an interpretation that he knows what happened. He knows who the assassin was. He knows who killed his father, his papa. He knows who did it, Marude. And he said, let me quote, back back page one more, he says that his father was killed by an unknown assassin. Unknown assassin. But apparently he knows something for him to say, Marade, I won't forgive you. So, Matsuri lied. He lied about Marade. He lied about whatever happened in that room. And then also, the body count makes no sense. But then, let's look at something else. Matsuri is holding a gun. Now, this may not seem like much. Maybe CC agents carry guns. That's a possibility. I'm not going to throw that out the window. That's a likely possibility. But the majority of CC agents carry Quinkes with them. And the thing is that this gun in this panel has a lot of emphasis. A lot of emphasis. And it looks very, very similar to Marude's actual fucking gun. I'm not even joking. Look at the gun, and then go back in chapter 83. It looks very similar to Marude's gun. It does. It really does. So, this can only be explained by one thing. That means Matsuri got a hold of Marude's gun somehow. What the absolute fuck? And then let's look at this, okay? He's holding a gun. And if we go to the page even before that, it doesn't look like he's really holding anything. But then the page shifts over, and then he has a gun in his hand. So, whatever is going on here is that he has Marude's gun. And then he drops it like he just doesn't give a shit. And he goes into sadness. You just see the clatter sound. Yoshida emphasized that he just drops the fucking gun, even though he had it. So, what's going on here? Did he enter the room with what was going on when the fight was taking place with, you know, Yoshitoki was fighting Marude? Or was he already in there and did something else happen when it exchanged with the gun? Something is off. Very off with this part. So, now that I said that, most likely Marude is alive. That's a very likely possibility. Now, what is the reason why Matsuri would lie? Why would he lie, of all things? Well, my only assumption is this. For him to have some form of father complex, he's fucking crying for his father. He legit is having tears. This is the first sign of emotions we have ever seen from this son of a bitch and throughout the entirety of Tokyo Ghoul, besides his own self-promotions. So for this to be happening, for this man to constantly want a promotion, he always wants to get higher up and control everything, to finally be in that position, but then he loses his father. This is like something completely unexpected, because remember, Matsuri's character, he's a very selfish individual. He wants to move up into the, you know, the leaderboards, the status quo. And him finally being up there, but now his papa is dead, you can see how upset he is. So it shows you something very odd is happening here. So this man is upset for his father's death. He says something about Marude. He's having some form of gun, which looks oddly familiar to Marude's gun. And it just makes me assume, why would he hide the assassin? It's probably because, if I had to assume, he wants to kill Marude. Or something else is going on here that I don't understand. But I believe Marude wants to kill, or not Marude, I believe Matsuri wants to kill Marude. His own. I think he wants to kill him. Because that's the only thing I could assume why he wouldn't reveal the information. Honestly. So anyways, enough of that, let's carry on. Enough of the father complex. We get to carry over to find out that the fight between the Fable fight that, you know, needed to happen. This is something that's been built up for a while, and we knew it was going to happen. It's like the fated match between Tatara versus Hoji. We knew this had to happen. They're both on the same island, and this is probably one of the biggest fights I've been looking forward to see. And so Hoji, special class Hoji, is about to fight Tatara. And as we know, Hoji and Tatara have a huge history with each other, a big history, especially when it comes to Tatara's older brother. So this history right now is about to come full clash. They're about to go against each other, and we now know the QS are actually going to be rendezvousing with Hoji and his squad. And Akira is also there as well. So there is a possibility that Tatara can die in this fight, which I really hope not, because there's a lot of things I would like to know about Tatara. I would like to know more about him, but there is a likely possibility he could die in this fight. Now, when it comes to this page right here, this is like what I said earlier on in the video. It's kind of like a final farewell to Arima. And Kaneki gives his final goodbyes, and Hiroko allows him to do it. And this poem has so much symbolism in it, so much meaning, which I'm going to dive into. And I briefly talked about earlier on in this video about how, you know, thanks to the translation team, I was able to dive into this more deeply and get more into the symbolism instead of having to waste countless hours trying to figure out what, you know, each individual word meant, or just researching the Ainu and stuff like that. So I'm very glad they decided to do the translations where I could at least know somewhat what, you know, it kind of means. So let me give my interpretation of how I feel like this poem or what it means. And of course, many of you might think it means something else. That's the beauty of Tokyo Ghoul. It's for many interpretations of different things. So please let me know how you interpret the song and see if you interpret any way differently than I do. So Kaneki gets the one gift he gave Arima a long time ago, which I think I showed that in my my music video I did of Arima. I think I actually showed this. I could be wrong though. I could have swore I covered this, but you had it to where Arima received a gift from Kaneki at Christmas, and this is exactly what it is. Apparently he never wore it, but Kaneki received it, and it was something that Arima wanted to give back to Kaneki. And so Kaneki starts saying this. He, Ainu. Now Ainu, let me dive into what this is, okay? Ainu apparently is something very similar to how the Indians are in America. If you remember the Native Americans of America, that is what the Ainu are when it comes to Japan. They were the native, Americans, pretty much, of Japan. And they were the people that lived there before the Japanese eventually moved there and really started gaining land and control, from my understanding. And so the Ainu, actually, eventually, they had to be assimilated into Japanese culture. It's kind of like they were forced to be a part of Japan. That's kind of how Ainu was. They were forcefully meant to be something they never wanted to be. That's kind of what Ainu is. So my interpretation here is like Kaneki is saying he, Ainu. For instance, Arima was forced to be something he never wanted to be. A half-human and also a murderer. He was forced to do these things. And I feel like that's where, Shida might be interpreting this, like he, Ainu. Now, as we continue with the dialogue, he says the aged eagle. The man that is, like rapidly aged. Like the bird that flies. And, kind of this man, as we know, Arima, he has rapidly aged. He's a man that was constantly aging. He was near death. So kind of like the aged eagle, the man that flew. And when he's like, he who is old and wrinkled and tired of pain. Now, when he says this, for instance, how he was rapidly aging and he's tired of pain. That pain would be of constantly killing people, ending families, destroying, lives. The person that was tired of pain, of snow white beard. The snow white beard symbolizes, his age once again. A majestic Addis. Hopefully I'm saying these words right. Of Addis. Now, let me go to this page, which the translation team thankfully decided to actually let me know. So, Addis, a coat-like garment important in Ainu culture. Could be used for everyday as well as ceremonial occasions. So, the Addis, which we have here, so a majestic Addis. So, he's in like a ceremonial garb. He's in his garb, what he usually donned when he was constantly doing what he didn't want to do, when he was pained. But also, this can be used as like his funeral garb. That's kind of what you can interpret it as. He sharpens his makiri cross-legged. Now, what this means in my interpretation of it is that makiri, as we know, it is a sword. It's a knife. From the translations here, this is exactly what it means. So, a makiri, a type of knife used for a variety of tasks in Ainu life. So it was constantly used in the life for the Ainu. And now, in this sense, the makiri is being symbolized as it was being sharpened, and it's cross-legged. And my only way to interpret what this means for Arima is that his knife was his soul. It was his heart. And as we see here, it says cross-legged. So his knife was cross-legged. And I was trying to think of what this might mean, and the only thing I could assume was that his soul or his heart was cross-legged. And what this means is that his soul was twisted in a way to where he couldn't be what he wanted to be. He was forced to go against what he wanted to do, which goes back to the Ainus and the history of the Ainus of how they were forced to be a part of Japan. And this is kind of what I think this means. His soul, his heart was pained, and his heart had to be sharpened and become cold to be able to deal with what he had to do. So let's go into this next one. He trims the dead man's fingers. Now this one, here's my interpretation of it. As you know, dead man's fingers is actually a seaweed. Yeah, it's actually a name of a seaweed. I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for the translation team, so I'm very thankful for that. So, I went out of my way to actually dive in to see what the seaweed is, how it looks like, what does it look like, where it grows. Now I know it grows in Japan, but I was looking exactly how it looked and stuff to see if there's anything symbolic about this seaweed. So here's what I got from it. So I want to read a quick summary of what this is. So, Dead Man Fingers is a seaweed named for its dark green color and soft felt-like texture. It has earned the common name Dead Man's Fingers or Green Sea Fingers for its swollen, fingered-shaped branches that float in the water, or hang down the sides of rocks and cliffs when the tide is out. These fingers consist of plump, rounded branches, which may grow up to 1 meter long, which originate from a central fleshy mass northeast coast of the US, which grow vertically like trees in a forest, But the seaweed prefers warm water temperatures of approximately 24 Celsius for optimal growth and reproductive success, but tolerates a wide spectrum of water temperatures, requiring low sunlight, so grows well in light-obstructed areas, including developed coastal areas featuring human structures beneath and upon which it may attach and thrive in the shade. So this seaweed thrives in the shade. It is a seaweed that thrives more with less sunlight, in the darkness. That's kind of what the seaweed is. So Dead Man's Fingers is a seaweed that grows in the darkness. Now let's go back to the poem, okay? So once again, a majestic Addis. The Addis is a robe. It's a ceremonial robe. His robe he donned in his death, his funeral robe. He died in what he did. He died doing what he had to do. Now, he sharpened his Makuri. His Makuri, as we know, is the knife. His knife is his solar heart, which was twisted thanks to what he had to do, constantly killing. His heart was tangled up. He trims the dead man's fingers. Now, when it comes to this, it means he kind of like, he killed the darkness, but he also killed his heart in the same exact way. He is the one that actually was growing in the shade. He was a man that lived in the darkness. And his mind clouds. So what this means is his mind clouded because he grew in the darkness. For instance, he was half human. He was an experiment. So that's kind of some of the meaning here. And I love what Ishida did with this symbolism when it came to this part of the poem. Now, carrying on, he says, "Thou who art laid out on the ground, all is good, and I pray I grow old, and I lament. I am white, already gleaming. I fade ever so soon. The man who named me, to the man that killed me, the man who gave me hope." So this page has one very distinct meaning, and it has the checkerboard pattern, the classic checkerboard pattern of Tokyo Ghoul. And one of the things here that really stood out to me, which was so fucking symbolic and was one of the best moments of this chapter, was definitely seeing the checkerboards becoming all white. You see the black spaces, the tiles, disappear and get filled in by the gleaming white, the actual light, the sun. And what this means, of how I interpret it, is it's where Kaneki, he has now embodied hope. He is hope itself. He has now gotten rid of this darkness he had within him, wanting to die. He has now fully accepted what he is. He is fully on the path to continue on living. He is a man that will now be the next symbol of hope. He is the next person, and he is also the man that now knows what to do. He has a clarity of mind. His mind is clear. He knows what to do. That is what this solid white checkerboard pattern means. Kaneki is clear of mind. He now knows what to do. And so when he says, he's like, "I am white already gleaming. I fade ever so soon. The man who named me," Arima is the one who named Kaneki, "to the man that killed me, killed his old self, killed his dark black self. The man who gave me hope, made his entire future white," what we see here. Arima giving him the reason to live. And then moving on to the next page, Arima. "You were my teacher and my father. I was oh so happy." So, this is very, very sweet, because Kaneki admits that you're my teacher, and I think of you like my father. You've taught me, and I will carry on what you tried to do, and what you wanted to do. And so, Kaneki steps into the light, and he wants to be the next hope. That's how I think Ishida meant this to be interpreted. Now, I could be wrong here, but it's just a very, very sweet way to kind of give the final wrap-up on Arima's character. And I feel like Ishida couldn't have done it any better, really. He couldn't have. This was such a very good, symbolic chapter. So, did you interpret that the same way as I did, Chibi? I just gotta ask, did you? Because it's just so sweet just seeing how, you know, we see this, you know, flashback of Heise Sasaki being with Arima. Arima's smiling, and he's right behind him. And it was like a teacher and a father figure, and it's so sad. It's because his father passed away, and his father taught him what to do. And it's very symbolic, too, in a way like this, because as we know, we had it to where Arima, he always had a blank testament. His blank testament was always solid white. He didn't know what to write. And he left behind Kaneki, which was kind of his blank testament. And another way to look at it is that he made Kaneki into a complete blank testament. He made him hope itself. light, the sun. So that's very kind of ironic in a way to look at it like that too. So yeah, Ishida. She did a very good job with this chapter. I really love this chapter. I don't know, honestly, what I'm probably going to have as a thumbnail, but definitely a 10 out of 10 chapter. One of my personal favorites of Tokyo Ghoul. And just, damn it, Ishida, you're such a good fucking writer. Just for the symbolism along with the Ainus, to the sword, the twisted heart, all that. It's so good. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.